My family tried to use my success, but I turned their schemes into my greatest victory. My cousin Dean leaned in so close I could smell the whiskey on his breath, and he whispered, "Just smile and nod, okay? Don't embarrass Mom," while my Aunt Rita shoved a glossy folder into my hands like it was a bouquet. We were standing under the string lights in my parents' backyard, the ones Mom only drags out when she wants the neighbors to think we're the kind of family that laughs together in warm, golden light instead of the kind that picks one person to carry everyone else. Someone had put a microphone on a stand near the dessert table. My cake, sat there with my name piped in thick buttercream, already sagging a little in the humid air. Behind me, my boss was making polite conversation with my dad, and my mom kept glancing between them like she was watching two trains approach a collision. I opened the folder, and my stomach went straight cold. It wasn't a card. It wasn't a "we're proud of you" speech. It was a contract. Big, bold title on the first page, "Partnership Agreement." My name was typed into it like it belonged there. A pen was clipped neatly to the top. Rita's eyes were bright in a way that made my skin crawl. "We printed it nice," she said, like she was doing me a favor. "All you have to do is sign. It'll take 2 minutes." I didn't realize my fingers had tightened until the folder creaked. My mouth went dry, and the noise around us, the laughter, the music, the clink of glasses, felt far away, like I'd stepped underwater. Dean nudged my elbow and hissed, "Don't make it weird." My mom's voice floated over from the patio, too high and cheerful. "Everyone, we're going to do speeches soon." My boss, Paul, smiled at me from across the yard, holding a paper plate like he was genuinely excited to be here, and the sight of him in my family space made a hot wave of panic roll through my chest. Because I knew exactly what this was. They'd invited him on purpose. They'd wrapped their little trap in fairy lights and cake and called it a celebration. They weren't proud of me. They were positioning me. It was a Wednesday 6 months earlier when I got the email that changed everything. Promotion confirmed. Salary increase attached. Equity grant attached. I was sitting at my tiny kitchen table in my apartment, the one with the wobble that made my coffee ripple if you breathed too hard. I read the email 3 times because a part of me didn't believe good things could happen without a catch. Then I cried, quietly, the way you cry when you don't want to scare yourself. Because I'd spent years feeling like I was running on a treadmill while my family stood nearby, calling me lucky whenever I got anywhere. I'd worked so hard for that promotion. Late nights, weekend calls, eating noodles so I could pay off debt, turning down trips, saying no to things that made me happy because maybe next year. And when it finally happened, I didn't even tell my family right away. I told my best friend first, then my little brother, then eventually Mom. Because no matter how many times she made my achievements feel small, she was still my mom, and some stubborn part of me wanted her to be excited for me. She was excited. Too excited. The kind of excited that looks like planning. Within a week, everyone knew. Not because I posted it. Not because I wanted attention. Because my mom told my aunt, who told my cousins, who told my grandparents, and suddenly I had relatives I hadn't spoken to in years texting, "So proud of you." With 3 exclamation points like enthusiasm could substitute for history. Dean called me big money on the phone and laughed like it was affectionate. Rita asked what my new salary was, just out of curiosity. My dad started introducing me to strangers as our successful one in a tone that sounded proud, but also possessive, like my success was something he could put on a shelf. It felt nice for about 20 minutes. Then the request started. At first it was small, the way it always is. "Can you look over this email for me? Can you help me negotiate this bill? Can you put this on your card and I'll pay you back?" The requests always came with the same sugarcoating. Family helps family. And I used to fall for it because I was raised to think love means being useful. But there was a pattern underneath, one I couldn't unsee once I saw it. They weren't asking for me. They were asking for access. Dean wanted me to introduce him to someone in my company because he decided he was going to pivot into tech sales despite not having held a job longer than 8 months. Rita wanted me to co-sign a lease for her boutique wellness studio, which was a fancy name for a half-formed idea she'd had after watching too many motivational TikToks. My dad wanted to borrow my car for a few weeks because it was making a noise and he didn't want to take it in. My mom wanted me to put my brother's tuition on my credit card because it's just for now. When I said no, gently at first, the atmosphere changed like someone dimmed the lights. Rita got icy. Dean got loud. Dad got offended. Mom got teary. They started tossing around words like selfish and changed and my personal favorite, you think you're better than us now. The crazy thing is, I didn't feel better than them. I felt terrified because I could feel how conditional their pride was. Pride, as long as it benefited them. Pride, as long as it stayed available. Pride, as long as it didn't come with boundaries. 2 months ago, Rita invited me to lunch just to catch up. I should have known. Rita doesn't catch up. Rita recruits. She picked the kind of cafe where the chairs are uncomfortable and the menus have words like handcrafted and artisan to justify charging $18 for avocado. She talked for 15 minutes about manifestation and generational wealth and the universe rewarding energy. Then she slid her phone across the table and showed me a slideshow titled Rita and NIA, a power duo. I laughed because I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. She said, imagine it. You're the face. You've got the corporate credibility. People trust you. I've got the vision. We just need seed money. My stomach dropped. Seed money, I repeated. Not a lot, she said quickly, already moving to minimize. Just enough to get the space and equipment. 25 grand. You get it back. Pretty puffy. And you'd be helping family build something. I stared at her across the table, heat rising behind my eyes. 25 grand wasn't seed money to me. 25 grand was the emergency fund I'd built brick by brick. 25 grand was the deposit I was finally starting to believe I could save. 25 grand was my peace. I can't, I said. Her smile stayed in place, but her eyes sharpened. You won't, she corrected. There's a difference. I felt the old guilt reflex rise, the urge to over-explain, to justify. I swallowed it down and said, no, I won't, because I don't want to. Rita sat back like I'd slapped her. Wow, she said loudly. Okay, I didn't realize you'd become like that. Like what? I asked, and my voice was steady in a way that surprised me. Cold, she said. Greedy. Greedy. Because I wouldn't hand her my savings. I went home from that lunch shaking, not because I was unsure, but because I was starting to understand something I'd avoided my whole life. My family didn't like me as a person. They liked me as a role. The fixer, the helper, the one who keeps it together. My success didn't change their view of me. It just upgraded what they felt entitled to take. Then came the invitation to the backyard celebration. Mom insisted. It's just a dinner, she said. We're proud of you. Let us celebrate you. I almost said no. I almost protected my peace. But there was this soft, stupid hope in me. Hope that maybe if I gave them one night, they'd give me one night too. Hope that maybe I could finally experience the thing other people seem to have naturally. A family that claps for you without calculating what they can get. So I agreed. And now here I was, under string lights, holding a folder that proved my hope had been the bait. I flipped through the pages with numb fingers. The partnership agreement was written like I was a silent investor and an active director. It had clauses about me, providing brand leverage and introducing corporate contacts. It had a neat little section for my signature and initials on every page. I looked up at Rita. You typed my name into this, I said. Rita Smuil Dvaidur. Because it's true, she said. It's us. Together. This is what family looks like. Dean shifted beside me, whispering, just sign it. It'll shut them up. My mum hovered closer, eyes shining. Sweetheart, she murmured, don't do this here. People are watching. And that's when something in me went incredibly still. Because yes, people were watching. My boss was watching. My colleagues were watching. The neighbors were watching. And for once, I realized something that felt like oxygen. I didn't actually need to protect my family from public discomfort. They'd never protected me from it. They'd laughed at my expense at dinners. They'd called me sensitive in front of relatives. They'd told people I was too intense when I expressed boundaries. They'd used me as a punchline and expected me to smile. I looked at my mom. Did you know about this? I asked quietly. Her eyes darted away. It's not a big deal, she whispered. That was my answer. I turned my head and caught Paul's eye across the yard. He gave me a polite, supportive smile, the kind people give when they assume you're just nervous about attention. He had no idea he was standing in the blast radius of my family's entitlement. I took a slow breath and said, calmly, I'm not signing this. Rita's smile froze. Excuse me, I'm not signing it, I repeated. My voice didn't shake. My hands did, slightly, but I kept them low so nobody would see. And I'm not investing. Dean's face tightened. Don't do this. Mum's whisper turned sharp. Nia, stop. Rita leaned closer, her voice syrupy but hard underneath. Don't be embarrassing, she said. This is your moment. Be generous. Show gratitude. I almost laughed at that. Gratitude for what? For being cornered? I looked down at the folder, then back at Rita, and I said, if you wanted me involved, you should have asked me. Not ambushed me. Not invited my boss to pressure me. Rita's face flushed. We invited him because we're proud, she snapped. No, I said, and my voice turned colder. You invited him because you thought it would make me say yes. Silence snapped between us, tense and bright like a wire. Dean muttered, Jesus, Nia. Mum's eyes filled with tears. Why are you doing this to us? She whispered, like I was the one who printed a contract behind someone's back. I felt the old urge to soothe her. I hated that urge. I hated how automatic it was, like a muscle memory, but I didn't obey it. Instead, I did something I'd never done in my family. I stepped away from the corner they'd put me in and walked straight toward the microphone. I heard Rita hiss my name. I heard Mum inhale sharply. I heard Dean's shoe scrape as he started to follow. But I kept walking, each step heavy and solid, like I was choosing my own body for the first time. When I reached the mic, my palms were sweaty and my throat was tight, but the second my fingers wrapped around the cool metal stand, the fear sharpened into focus. The music had faded. People were already turning, sensing the shift. My mom had planned speeches, sweet ones, probably ones about hard work and family values. I could picture her version of the night, me smiling, them glowing, and then, later, me signing the paper quietly in the kitchen. I leaned into the mic and said, Hey, everyone. A few people laughed softly, thinking I was just starting a speech. I continued, I'm really grateful you're here. I'm overwhelmed, honestly. I didn't expect my work life to cross into my home like this. Paul smiled at me, attentive. I swallowed. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration, I said, and I'm going to keep it that way. But I also need to say something out loud, because I'm done doing it quietly. The yard went still. Even the kids near the trampoline paused like they sensed adult tension. I glanced at my mom, at Rita, at Dean. My mom's face had that pleading look that used to control me. Not anymore. I love my family, I said, and I meant it in the complicated way you mean it when love has bruises. But lately, my success has turned into a bargaining chip. People have been asking me for money, for favors, for access, for introductions. Some of those asks were reasonable. Some weren't. And tonight, I was handed a contract I didn't agree to, with my name already printed on it. A ripple moved through the crowd. Small surprised noises, a couple of sharp inhales. Rita's face turned bright red. Mom looked like she might faint. I kept my voice calm. I'm not signing anything tonight, I said. I'm not investing in anything I haven't chosen. I'm not co-signing. I'm not being pressured. And I'm saying it here because I'm not willing to be cornered in private anymore. There was silence, thick and electric. Then, quietly, someone clapped. It was my little brother, standing near the back with a beer in his hand, eyes wide like he couldn't believe I'd said it. He wasn't even smiling. He looked relieved, like he'd been waiting for someone to break the pattern. A couple of my friends followed with awkward claps, then stopped, uncertain. It didn't become a full applause moment. Real life isn't a movie. But the sound, small as it was, steadied me. I took a breath. And because this is a celebration, I added, I want to use this moment to announce something I am choosing. I turned slightly and nodded at Paul. His eyebrows lifted, curious. I've been working with a youth mentorship program through my company, I said. And I've decided I'm sponsoring a scholarship fund this year for 2 local students who want to study business or tech, but don't have support. I saw Paul's expression soften into genuine approval. I saw my colleague smile. I saw the neighbors look impressed. Rita's mouth opened and shut, like she couldn't decide whether to be angry or to pretend she planned it too. I'm doing that, I said, because I know what it feels like to work hard and still be treated like your dreams are optional. And I want my money, my choices, to build something real. I paused, voice thickening slightly. That's my announcement. I finished. Thank you for coming. Please eat cake. I stepped back from the microphone before my hands could start shaking visibly. My heart was pounding loud in my ears. I could feel my face hot, my skin prickling like I'd just run a sprint. For a second, the yard stayed frozen, like nobody knew what script to follow. Then my friend Jess, bless her, lifted her glass and said loudly, "Tania," and the crowd finally exhaled into movement. People cheered, awkward but sincere. Someone whistled. The kids started bouncing again. Cake knives scraped plates. Conversation restarted in a jittery, unsettled way, like the party had to reboot. My family, though, my family looked like someone had pulled the floor out from under them. Mom rushed toward me first, eyes wet. "Why would you do that?" she hissed, keeping her voice low so others wouldn't hear. "You humiliated us." "Esther de here." My voice came out quiet and steady. "You humiliated me," I said. "You just did it privately for years." Rita stormed up, folder still in her hand. "You think you're so righteous," she snapped. "Donating money like you're some hero. That's a slap in the face." "It's my money," I said simply. Dean stepped in, jaw clenched. "You just cost us," he said, voice tight. "You could have handled it like family." I laughed, small, exhausted. "Like family?" I said. "You mean like you handled it? Printing my name into a contract without asking?" Dean's eyes flickered, guilty for a fraction of a second, then hardened. "You always do this," he muttered. "You always make everything intense." And there it was, the old label, the familiar cage. I felt my shoulders relax, strangely, because hearing it now didn't hook into me the way it used to. It felt tired, unoriginal, like a trick I'd already learned. "I'm going to go inside for a minute," I said, and I walked away before they could keep pressing. My hands were shaking now, full body tremor from the adrenaline drop. I went into the kitchen, leaned against the counter, and stared at the sink because it was easier than staring at my own reflection. Paul appeared in the doorway a moment later, holding a plate of cake like it was a peace offering. "Hey," he said gently, "are you okay?" I let out a breath that sounded like a laugh and a sob at the same time. "I'm alive," I said. He stepped closer, voice soft. "That took guts," he said. "And for what it's worth, you handled it professionally. You didn't attack anyone. You set a boundary." The word boundary made my throat tighten. "They're going to be furious," I admitted, staring at the tile. Paul shrugged slightly. "They might be," he said. "But you're not responsible for managing adults who try to pressure you. That's not your job." I blinked fast because I hated crying in front of people, especially at my mom's kitchen counter like I was 16 again. "I feel guilty," I whispered. "That makes sense," he said. "Guilt is what you feel when you've been trained to put yourself last." That line hit me so hard I had to grip the edge of the counter. When I went back outside, the party had smoothed itself over the way gatherings always do. People were laughing again, filling space with noise, pretending tension doesn't exist because pretending is easier than dealing. My mom was in a tight circle with Rita and Dean, faces sharp and animated. They kept glancing at me like I was a fire they couldn't decide whether to stamp out or feed. I didn't engage. I didn't apologize. I ate a piece of cake that tasted like butter and relief. Over the next week, the fallout came in waves. Mom sent long texts about disrespect. Rita posted vague quotes about people forgetting where they came from. Dean left a voicemail calling me heartless. Relatives I barely knew messaged me, half curious, half judgmental, like my boundary was gossip. And here's the part that surprised me. It didn't crush me the way it used to. Because I'd already won, and my victory wasn't humiliating them or looking powerful under string lights. My victory was simple and solid. I didn't sign. I didn't fold. I didn't shrink. They tried again a few days later. Of course they did. Mom invited me over to talk, which is family code for to pressure you without witnesses. I went, not because I wanted drama, but because I wanted to say the truth in a room without fairy lights. Mom sat at the table with her hands folded like she was praying. Rita was there too, lips pressed tight. Dean leaned in the doorway, arms crossed. Mom started, "We're worried about you." I almost smiled. "You're worried about losing access," I corrected. Mom's eyes flashed. "That's not fair." "It's true," I said. "You didn't call me to ask how I felt when you were planning this. You called me to tell me not to embarrass you." Rita threw up her hands. "So you're just never helping anyone again? You're cutting us off." "I'm helping differently," I said, and I kept my voice calm because calm is what they can't argue with without looking unreasonable. "I'll help when I'm asked respectfully. I'll help when it's my choice. I'm not funding schemes. I'm not being used as a name on paper. And I'm not mixing my career with family pressure." Dean scoffed. "You think you're so important." I looked at him. "I think I'm a person," I said. "Not a resource." Mom's face crumpled. "I just wanted everyone to be proud of you," she whispered. I held her gaze. "Then be proud of me," I said. "Not of what you can get from me." The room went quiet, heavy with everything we'd never said. Rita looked away first, jaw tight. Dean shifted like he wanted to leave. Mom finally whispered, "So what now?" And I realized I'd been waiting for that question my whole life. Not what do you want from me? Not what are you going to do for us? Just, what now? Now, I said, you learn me as I am. The version of me who says no. The version of me who keeps her money and her peace. If you can't love that version, then you don't love me. You love what I provide. Mom's eyes filled again, but this time I didn't rush to fix it. I let her feel it, because feelings aren't emergencies. I left after that, stomach fluttering with guilt and relief, and I went home to my apartment where my life was quiet and mine. A month later, I got an email from the mentorship program thanking me for the scholarship fund. They'd chosen 2 students, one girl who wanted to study software engineering, one boy who wanted to do business analytics. They sent me photos of them holding their acceptance letters, faces bright and stunned and proud. I stared at those photos for a long time, throat tight, because it felt like proof that my money could be used for something that didn't drain me. That's what my family never understood. My refusal wasn't cruelty. It was direction. It was me choosing where my energy goes instead of letting it be siphoned by whoever yells loudest. Do they regret it? Yeah. I can feel it in the way Mom's texts have shifted from angry to careful. I can see in the way Rita stopped asking for money and started asking for attention instead, like she's trying to find another route in. I can hear it in Dean's silence. Because Dean only reaches out when he wants something, and right now, he doesn't know how to ask without being exposed. But my greatest victory isn't that they regret ignoring me. It's that I stopped needing their approval to feel real. They tried to use my success like it belonged to them, like I was a trophy they could cash in. And I took that moment, my moment, the one they tried to hijack, and I turned it into something they couldn't touch. Something rooted in choice, not pressure. Something built on the version of me they couldn't control. And honestly, that's the first time my success has ever felt like mine.